Let's be honest, DC's newest heroes are getting weird, and not in the good way. And maybe it's not in the best way. First up is Gold Beetle, and let's be blunt, she's the poster child for everything wrong with DC's obsession with convoluted legacy characters. Part Rip Hunter, part Booster Gold, all time traveling, legacy, confusion, you name it. This amalgamation of a Blue Beetle descendant and Booster Gold's future son, or something like that. I mean, trying to explain her family tree without getting a headache is merely impossible. She popped up first during Flash Forward and then made a splash in Dark Crisis. She's a walking, talking paradox with Scarab-powered suit and a time sphere, seemingly existing solely to further complicate that already convoluted timelines of the DCU. And let's not forget that blatant attempt to capitalize on the popularity of both Booster Gold and Blue Beetle by just mashing their lineages together. Is this fan service or is it just lazy writing? Or it's both. Her existence begs the question, are we adding new characters just to make everything more complex, to create the illusion of depth where there's really just more tangled continuity? Gold Beetle feels less like a character and more like this walking, talking plot device designed to facilitate time travel, shenanigans, and little else. While some may find her chaotic energy fun, others will see her as a symbol of DC's increasing inability to create these truly original characters without leaning heavily on pre-existing lore, twisting it into this improbable shape. Next up, we have Flatline. Her power to steal skills from the deceased. This is basically just Taskmaster with a goth makeover. Now, Flatline has a genuine cool power. She can absorb the knowledge and skills of the deceased. She made her first debut in 2021, and she's a protege of Lord Deathman and a significant antagonist during the Robin series. She represents a shift towards a more horror-tinged corner of the DCU, which could be interesting if it wasn't so heavy-handed. But is she truly unique, or is her goth ninja necromancer aesthetic just a trendy repacking of tropes that we've already seen before? We've seen the learn from others ability countless times, and the edgy look feels more like a marketing ploy than a genuine character trait. Her power set in particular is rather convenient, if you want to say, bordering on overpowered. If a character gets a little too powerful, she can always conveniently take a piece of them away, leaving them weaker for the next issue, every single time, only to repeat the same pattern again and again. She exists to nerf other characters when the plot demands it, which isn't always that entertaining. Does she have the agency of her own, or is she just a tool to manipulate the power levers of those around her? There's something to be said about having a character steal abilities from specific important characters at specific important times in DC's history, but that doesn't seem to be what they're going for here. Phantom 1, the Kryptonian tragically transformed into a being of phantom energy in the Warworld saga, perfectly exemplifies a growing trend in superhero comics where new characters are primarily designed as narrative tools just to propel the arcs of these established icons, rather than existing as this fully fledged individual. Check this out, her entire existence, from her heartbreaking backstory to her visually stunning yet plot convenient powers, this all serves to illuminate the cruelty of Mongul, challenge Superman's compassion and strength, and ultimately highlight his inherent heroism in the face of Warworld's horrors. While her suffering invokes pathos, Phantom 1 is a less of a character in her own right and more of a catalyst for Superman's development, raising the concerns that the weight of the legacy and the pressures of the comic book industry are increasingly leading to the creation of new heroes whose primary function is to service the narrative of these already established characters, leaving them of course underdeveloped and ultimately disposable within the broader superhero landscape. It's like you're made just for the plot, and then when the plot's settled, now you go away. It's not really fair. Monkey Prince is DC's attempt to do a Marvel scenario, but it might be falling short. Inspired by the iconic Sun Wukong, Monkey Prince brings this much needed dose of Chinese mythology to the DC universe, a positive step towards diversifying its roster, and his solo series certainly shows DC's commitment to the character. However, his irreverent, joke-cracking personality, while true to his mythological roots, often feels jarring and out of place within the generically more somber tone of the DCU, particularly when he's interacting with legacy characters. Furthermore, his design, while sure it's visually striking, it does lean heavily on the traditional imagery, which some may find overly stereotypical and bordering on caricature, raising questions about whether DC is genuinely embracing these cultural representations or simply leaning on these well-worn tropes just for a quick win. While his powers in connection to a legendary figure, I mean this is undeniable, Monkey Prince does walk a fine line between paying homage and caricature, and his comedic tone risks undercutting the character's potential for these meaningful integrations into the DC universe. Circuit Breaker is proof that DC is ticking boxes, not breaking new ground per se. While their introduction as a non-binary hero is able to tap into the Still Force in DC's Pride 2022 anthology, this was a commendable step towards inclusivity, but Circuit Breaker has since languished in relative obscurity, highlighting this recurring problem with how DC handles its newer, more diverse characters. Being relegated to a one short story and then a minor appearance in the Greater Lazarus Planet event where they had little to no impact at all, this severely limits the potential for meaningful character development and exploration of their powers. This raises the crucial question, are characters like Circuit Breaker truly being given a fair chance to shine, or are they merely being used as these tokens to fill a diversity quota, introduced with fanfare and then sidelined in favor of these established cisgender heterosexual heroes that we already know? Without dedicated series or more substantial roles in major storylines, heroes like Circuit Breaker risk becoming footnotes in DC history. Their potential as compelling and representative characters tragically is left unfulfilled. Xanth is a diversity prop, not a developed character in the overhyped Yara Flor saga. While the introduction of Xanth, a transgender Amazon, in the pages of Yara Flor's Wonder Girls undoubtedly a step forward for representation within the, traditional cisgender dominated world of Themyscira, it's hard to ignore the fact that her character feels more like a symbolic gesture than a fully realized individual, right? A common theme we've seen so far in this list. Like Circuit Breaker, Xanth suffers from a severe lack of development, with her powers, backstory, and motivations remaining largely unexplored, leaving her as little more than a background figure in Yara Flor's narrative. Again, she's just a pawn in this other character's established world. This raises the uncomfortable question of whether DC is truly committed to developing these diverse characters, or if they're simply using them to just bolster the perceived inclusivity of established storylines, ultimately reducing them to tokens in a larger, more familiar narrative. Without dedicated exploration and meaningful storylines, Xanth risks becoming just another face in the crowd, or the book in this sense. A missed opportunity to expand the Amazon mythos in a truly impactful way. City Boy, okay, this guy can, well, talk to cities. That's his power. He just, literally. I mean, I do that every day on the way to work, but I don't look very super while I do it. He made his debut in the Wildstorm 30th anniversary special, and he's positioned as the urban counterpart to Swamp Thing. Now, City Boy represents an attempt to connect with a younger, more city-focused audience, hence his name. But is his power set more of a gimmick than a substance? And does the constant comparison to Swamp Thing hinder his ability to stand on his own as a unique character? Even though he predates a lot of the other heroes on the list, Roundhouse is still a relatively new addition to the DCU. He made his first appearance in Teen Titans Special back in 2018. Roundhouse, aka Billy Wu, is a social media obsessed teen with the ability to turn into a ball and bounce around. Yeah, he loves TikTok and he's also a ball. That's not bad, that's a power I can get behind. He's also, for some reason, a trained martial artist, because I guess the story demands it at some points. And he's meant to be the comic relief, the TikTok-loving Gen Z hero of Teen Titans. It's just what we wanted, right? But does his characterization sometimes fall into the trap of being a walking stereotype? And do his powers, while visually fun, actually make him an effective member of the team?
DC's new Absolute Comics are just the gift that keeps on giving. The Absolute Universe was created by Darkseid, a world where your favorite DC heroes don't have the advantages their Earth Zero counterparts do. So for Batman, that means he isn't rich, and that means he has to be way more resourceful to create all of his Bat gear. The Batman costume in this comic is absolutely incredible and so innovative. I love that his bat ears are actually knives. I love that he can stand on his cape like stilts, similar to how a bat walks, and I love that the bat symbol on his chest turns into an axe. Every part of this suit is useful, and it just shows how clever this version of Bruce Wayne is. He still follows Batman's golden rule, no fatalities, if he can help it. He would always hit just close enough though. The other notable difference between this Batman and the Batman we're used to is he still has his mom, and his dad passed in a very different setting. Thomas Wayne was Bruce's teacher. On a class trip to the zoo, someone opened fire and Mr. Wayne shoved his class into the Bat exhibit, sacrificing his life for his students. The tragedy inspired Bruce's mission of justice. To gain the knowledge he would need for his mission, Bruce worked in almost every sector of the city, currently employed as an engineer. It's nice to know that even with all the odds stacked against our heroes, they still fight for good. Wonder Woman is also receiving the absolute treatment, with her first issue releasing just a few days ago. This Diana didn't have the advantage of growing up with the Amazons on Paradise Island. Instead, she grew up literally in hell. She was taken from the Amazons by Zeus and brought down by Apollo to be raised by Circe on the wild Isle of Hell. This was a form of punishment towards the Amazon as they committed some unspecified crime against the gods, but it must have been really bad considering it was also decreed that the word Amazon must never be spoken again. Diana still grew up with all the same powers she normally would, making friends with many demons along the way, but she never knew why she was the way she was. It wasn't until she matured that she went to her mother Circe and began asking about the forbidden word that she may never have heard but felt beating in her chest. Though Circe couldn't say it, she encouraged Diana to say what she was, told her about her heroic sisters, and ultimately let Diana go to become Wonder Woman. Absolute Wonder Woman fights to protect Earth from harbingers, preventing them from consuming the world. She fights with the Athena blade and her skeletal, fire-breathing Pegasus. The final panel of Absolute Wonder Woman features Diana in all her glory, wielding a new lasso, the Nemesis lasso. It's red, and according to writer Kelly Thompson, it dulls out more pain than the lasso of truth, and likely we will read about its origins soon. And finally, to complete this trio, Absolute Superman. Now we know significantly less about Absolute Superman simply because his comic isn't out yet. There is a preview available, and from that we learn that instead of Superman's parents, particularly his mother, being respected scientists and scholars, they were Kryptonian farmers in the part of town that the upper class don't often worry about. This Superman will still likely lose his parents because the tagline for his story is, "This Superman has no family, no fortress of solitude, and no home." So just going out on a limb here, but I think he's gonna lose him. The Superman that comes to Earth will also apparently be an adult upon arrival, and that's very, very different from most depictions of the character. Baby Superman obviously knew that something bad happened to his world and eventually learned what it was in full. But adult Superman will crash onto the scene with that anger fresh in his mind. So the big question is, will he use it for good or not? From the Wild Wild West comes Marilyn Moonlight, a vigilante active back when Metropolis was just a little frontier town. At first, Marilyn was just a regular citizen, but then an outlaw rolled into town and was causing trouble. The outlaw was defeated by two people from the future, a man who could fly and a woman on a glowing horse. Marilyn saw the mysterious woman and was inspired to protect the little town, becoming the spirit of Metropolis. Little did she know, the future people turned out to be Superman and Marilyn. Behind every strong woman is herself. Marilyn lived a long life and passed peacefully surrounded by love, but then of course that can't last long. There is no peace for heroes, not even in death. She was resurrected as a ghost, and for her troubles, she received light-based powers that work best when manipulating moonlight. The catch is she can only exist in the dark. Marilyn dropped in early 2023, and I hope that they find ways to keep bringing her back. Ranadorada and his flaming puppy, Cadeo, have leapt on the scene, literally. Ranadora means golden frog in Spanish. This new hero was teased in 2023's Batman Superman World's Finest 2021 in November of last year, but he was literally just shown in a big group and had a short moment fighting our leading heroes when they were on Earth 22. His Prime Earth counterpart didn't appear until Absolute Power 3 from earlier this year. Ranadorada seems to be a skilled acrobat and fearless, stepping up to the plate to fight against Amanda Waller's propaganda and help out the heroes. His fire dog is based on a spirit from Central American folklore. There is a protector version of this spirit, but also an evil version, which hopefully Ranadorada gets more panel time and the evil dog is used somewhere in a story. Another new hero was teased alongside Rana in the World's Finest comic. Her hero suit takes after a jaguar, and her name is Baruka. The name is inspired by the Baruka, an indigenous group living in Costa Rica. It seems like her jaguar suit is a suit. It has sharpened claws, and she is clearly very agile and strong considering she can jump so high. Even less is known about this hero than Dorada. She has literally appeared the one time, but since he got a hero feature later, hopefully she'll also get one in the future. I mean, there is the Justice League-esque team that already exists in Mexico, so maybe she could team up with them. Wonder Woman's daughter Trinity has been officially introduced into Prime Earth. Now you might already know her from the backup comics in Wonder Woman Volume 6, but technically that version of her was from a possible future, and that possible future is now possibly confirmed canon. The Trinity comic in Wonder Woman 13 is her origin story as explained by Damian Wayne, and then the next issue's main story shows Wonder Woman actually molding Trinity from the clay and asking for life to be bestowed upon her. Will this Elizabeth actually grow up to be the Trinity from the backup stories that wields the three lassos of fate, or will she end up completely different? It remains to be seen. Jenny Crisis is the latest Century baby, the spirit of the 21st century born on the stroke of midnight New Year's Day 2000. Century babies are born at the beginning of a century that eventually grow up to have superhuman abilities, and their job is to change the world, and they don't usually age past their 20s. Jenny is taking her her role as the 21st century baby very seriously. She is determined to leave the century better than she found it. At first, she did more harm than good because she didn't know who she was. She would have a panic attack and then something really bad would happen somewhere in the world. Eventually, she put the pieces together and decided to take some time to herself to sort that out. Like most century babies, Jenny is abnormally strong and can listen to the world, enabling her to locate those in trouble no matter where they are. She can fire blasts of emotional energy and make those around her feel what she feels. This year, Jenny had a bad breakup and accidentally caused the world to effectively break for 2 days, but then the outsiders showed up to neutralize her. Jenny proved that she wasn't a threat, and she is now continuing her journey of self-discovery. She debuted in February of this year. DC once again drew some inspiration from history for Joker, the world this year, this time creating the Polish hero Zawiza Black Knight, defender of Krakow, based on the real Polish knight, the Black of Garbo. The knight passed in the early 1400s, but DC seems to suggest that his legacy, or he, lives on. In this Joker short story, Joker is attempting to steal a famous painting of a clown, only to be stopped in his tracks by the Black Knight. His suit is fashioned to look like armor, and he wields a very sharp sword. He is not Batman, or a version of Batman, which he explicitly says, along with a promise that he doesn't have the no fatality rules, so the Joker better watch out. And finally, also from Absolute Batman, is a brand new super cool version of Alfred Pennyworth. Now, Alfred has always been that guy. He has always been good at everything he does, and there have been plenty of versions of him that have a past of being some kind of hero in his own right, but it simply never gets old. So in Absolute Batman, Alfred is a special agent for a British organization. We don't know which one yet. His current assignment is to return to Gotham City to gather intel on the Party Animals, the villainous group of the hour. He is highly trained in every form of combat, weaponry, he has a pretty sick motorcycle. Since this universe is meant to strip our heroes of all their advantages, Alfred doesn't know Bruce Wayne. In fact, he fought Batman on a rooftop and has been tasked with removing Batman from the picture, so he's really not on his side. And I'm excited to see that change, because there's already signs of a change of heart in the comic, which will be interesting to read.
Number 10. Emily Bright. Making her first appearance in Strange Academy issue 1 in 2020, Emily Bright was born with an innate connection to magic. Even as a young child, her abilities manifested in these subtle ways, such as healing injured animals with a simple touch. Her life changed forever when Doctor Strange personally invited her to enroll in Strange Academy, a school of course dedicated to training the next generation of sorcerers. Now at the academy, Emily learns advanced spells, elemental control, and how to summon mystical energies. However, her raw magical potential is both a gift and a curse. She often finds herself a target for dark entities eager to harness her power, including forces from dimensions that she never even knew existed. Emily's journey is all about self-discovery and responsibility as she struggles to balance her desire for a normal life with the burden of protecting the magical realms. Hashtag first world problems. Number 9. Doyle Dormammu. Making his first appearance in Strange Academy 1 in 2020, Doyle Dormammu is the teenage son of Dormammu, the infamous ruler of the Dark Dimension, and of course a long-standing enemy of Doctor Strange. Now, despite his fiery skull and lineage and all that scary stuff, Doyle seeks to forge his own path, but this time as a hero. At Strange Academy, he works tirelessly to prove that he is more than his father's legacy. Doyle's powers include fire manipulation, invulnerability to heat, and the ability to tap into the interdimensional magic. However, his journey is marked by internal conflicts. He often questions whether he can escape the darkness of his ancestry or if his father's influence is too deeply ingrained. Doyle's dynamic relationships with his classmates, especially Emily Bright, add depth to his character, showcasing that his struggle to balance friendship, heroism, and the constant threat of his father's looming control is a pretty hard one to balance. Number 8. Eve Warlock. Making her first appearance in Warlock Rebirth 1 back in 2023, in the world of the Christian Bible, if you know Adam, then you also must have heard of Eve. Well, Marvel takes this idea and introduces a new female counterpart to Adam Warlock, called Eve Warlock. Genetically engineered to be the perfect woman, in quotes, Eve surpasses Adam in nearly every aspect, making her a powerful and an intriguing figure in this reimagined origin story of the iconic Marvel hero. Created by the High Evolutionary, Eve Warlock initially defies her creator's intentions and, like Adam, seeks her own path as a hero within Earth 616. However, unlike many heroes, she's not known for her compassion or her friendliness. You can't have them all, folks. Eve tends to keep to herself, avoiding interactions with others and distancing herself from the conventional ideals of heroism. Now, This aloofness and lack of sympathy make her a unique addition to the Marvel Universe, with her character developing beyond the shadow of Adam Warlock's legacy. Number 7. Samurai Venom. Pretty self-explanatory, let's dive in. Making his first appearance in Extreme Venomverse #1 back in May 2023, in a unique twist on the symbiote saga, Samurai Venom takes the fusion of ancient warrior culture and Venom to thrilling new heights. Originating from an alternate Earth, this version of Venom combines the power of the symbiote with the discipline and ferocity of a samurai. Now, although Samurai Venom has only appeared in 2 Marvel comics in 2023 and met a untimely demise, the concept of a symbiote-wielding warrior offers rich potential for future stories. It's pretty badass. Given Marvel's tradition of reinventing symbiotes, there's always a chance for this character to return. I mean, we hope. The origin of Samurai Venom is set in motion when an Oscorp employee stumbles upon this mysterious black sword. Upon drawing the blade, Takemoto, the unsuspecting wielder, is then bonded with the Venom symbiote, transforming into Samurai Venom. This dimensional character brings a fresh and visually striking take on the classic symbiote, and while he exists in an alternate universe, the idea of a Venom samurai could certainly find its way back into the core Marvel continuity, perhaps as a historical figure on Earth 616. Never say never. Number 6. Hunter's Moon. Making their first appearance in Moon Knight issue 3 2021, Hunter's Moon, aka Dr. Batter, is a devout follower of Khonshu, the Egyptian moon god, and serves as a counterpart to Mark Spector's Moon Knight. Batter views himself as the god's loyal servant, upholding Khonshu's will without question. Hunter's Moon possesses enhanced strength, agility, and healing abilities, especially during a full moon, of course, as well as access to Khonshu's divine magic. His character brings an intriguing moral contrast to Moon Knight, questioning whether blind faith or moral ambiguity is a better path. As both an ally and a rival, Hunter's Moon challenges Mark Spector to reconsider his relationship with Khonshu and the nature of his mission. Number 5. Wagnerine. Making their first appearance in Nightcrawler's issue 1 in 2023, Wagnerine from Earth TRN 993 is the result of Mr. Sinister's experiment, blending the powers of Nightcrawler and Wolverine into a single weaponized mutant. With both teleportation and claws, she's a force to be reckoned with. Though her time in the comics was brief, her fierce determination to protect her child, even at a great personal cost, of course makes her a memorable character. Wagnerine's fusion of iconic abilities offers a fresh twist on familiar mutants and left a lasting mark on Marvel's multiverse. That's the 2 powers you'd want, really. Teleportation and some claws? Game over, pal. Number 4. Scarlet Scarab. Making their first appearance in Moon Knight 25 2023. Originally, they were introduced in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Layla El Fowley made her comic debut as the Scarlet Scarab in 2023. Her story adds depth to Mark Spector's journey, pushing him towards becoming Moon Knight. After his passing, Layla was resurrected by the goddess Tawarit and returned as a powerful protector of the Egyptian god's City of the Dead. With her new abilities, she teams up with Moon Knight, forming a compelling duo that brings fresh excitement to Marvel Comics. Her powers and evolving relationship with Moon Knight promise more thrilling adventures in the Marvel Universe. We didn't get a lot of her in the Moon Knight show. I wonder if we'll get more in season 2. I wonder if we'll get a season 2 at this point. I mean, who knows? Number 3. Ironfire. Making their first appearance in Sins of Sinister 2023, Ironfire was introduced in the dystopian future of Sins of Sinister. It's a mutant with the unique ability to transmute his blood into weapons and armor. Now, in a world where Sinister has taken fully control, Ironfire becomes a leader in the Resistance, using his powers to fight for mutant freedom. His character embodies resilience and defiance, representing an unyielding spirit of those who resist oppression. So when brought into the main timeline, Ironfire's knowledge of future events, of course, makes him a valuable, albeit haunted, ally in preventing Sinister's schemes from coming to fruition. Number 2. Sora the Cyclone. Making her first appearance in Avengers Assemble Omega 1 back in 2023, Sora the Cyclone is a Wakandan meteorologist turned superhero, and she's chosen to represent her nation on a multiversal Avengers team. Her powers, derived from Wakandan experiments with vibranium and atmospheric technology, this allows her to control wind currents, summon tornadoes, and manipulate the weather on a localized scale. Sora's intelligence and tactical mind make her a critical asset in battle, while her Wakandan heritage ties her to her people's deep cultural and technological roots. And finally, number 1, Spider-Boy Bailey Briggs. Making his first appearance in Spider-Man April 2023, Bailey Briggs became Spider-Boy after being taken and having his DNA spliced by Madame Monstrosity. His tragic origin mirrors that of many masked heroes, but his powers allowed him to stand proudly alongside Spider-Man as his sidekick. Now, despite a complex complex relationship with Peter Parker, including Otto Octavius' time as Superior Spider-Man, Spider-Boy brings this optimistic energy to the team, which is always fun. Though he's not as popular as Miles Morales yet, or Peter Parker, nothing of that sort, Spider-Boy's charm and growing fan base earned him his own series in the same year that he was introduced, so he's off to a good start, so we'll probably see more of him to come. Maybe in Beyond the Spider-Verse, maybe we'll see a little Bailey Briggs, who knows.
So Hydra is once again ruining lives because it's what they do best. This time they kidnapped a bunch of regular people and experimented on them, giving them superpowers. The person is brainwashed to believe that they are linked to a superhero that shares similar powers. For example, for today's first point, we have Moon Squire. He believes that he is attached kind of to Moon Knight. His Hydra backstory is that he acquired his powers / contacted his Egyptian patron after finding some forbidden ancient texts while on an internet deep dive. It appears that Moon Squire has similar, if not the same, powers as Moon Knight, with a focus on his ability to darken any space he's in, literally absorbing the light to create his weapons. He's not the only person this situation has happened to, there were quite a few of them. Some of the other experiments have found each other and created a team together called the Assembly, now New Champions. Hydra created all these little heroes so they would cover the earth and subtly influence the world to view Hydra favorably. The New Champions have discovered their evil plan and made it their mission to find the new heroes around the world and bring them to the good side. Next up is Calico, a big win for the Horse Girls. Introduced in Uncanny X-Men in August, she is literally a girl with a magical horse. Together they are Calico and Ember. Since Calico is very, very new, there isn't much to go on when it comes to how much power she wields. However, she has given readers a taste, and so far she is awesome. Through a powerful mind link with her horse, she can transform them into various horse forms. All we've really seen so far is kind of like a winged flaming horse. Calico can either stay as she is and just look really cool riding on the back of a flaming Pegasus, or she can give herself a flaming suit of armor and a sword and look even cooler. To put it simply, I want to be her. Calico's backstory is tough, like many Young Mutants is. Born Becca Simon Panetch, she grew up with a mother that kind of made her like a Rapunzel character. She couldn't access any media other than books, only animals were her friends, and she was once locked in a cupboard for 4 days, so you kind of understand the vibe there. When her house burned down, she got out of there and has been on the run ever since, eventually finding a family in a scrappy group of teens that call themselves the Outliers. My favorite recent-ish addition to the Marvel Spider universe is Spinstress or Spinderella. She is Princess Petra of Earth 423, and I have never ever wanted to be a character so bad. She is a Disney princess version of Peter Parker. She sings, she swings, and she even has her own MJ, Mary James Watson. He's a singing bard. Like Cinderella, she is banned from going to the big ball, but her fairy godmother swooped in to save the day. She gave Petra the prettiest dress I've ever seen and spider powers and sent her on her way. Now she is a crime-fighting princess living in a fairy tale land, and isn't that just the dream? Princess Petra did debut in 2022, so she's a bit older than some of the other people on this list, but no less cool. Phantasma debuted this month in Ghost Rider Robbie Ray's special, and she is awesome. She was only there for a little bit, but that's really all she needed. Roller derby skater by trade and Ghost Rider when she is put in high-stress situations, Isabella Alvarez might not have complete control over when she uses her powers, but she does have a good handle on them in the midst of battle. In the story, Isabella was supposed to be getting ready for a roller derby match, but she had a panic attack that caused a portal to open and release a bunch of demons. To deal with the demons, she had to become her Ghost Rider form, Phantasma. She has some super hot glue chains that she uses to corral them all, and of course she has the ability to open and close portals. She's completely fearless, as exhibited by her complete willingness to just jump through the portal at the end to make sure it closes with no real plan on how to get back. Phantasma was created for the New Champions variant covers event happening this month. We have another new champion, and her name is Liberty. She is part of the team Moon Squire is on, and she looks kind of like if Captain America and the Wasp mashed together. Her brainwashed backstory is she was a tech genius and was a leading mind in the advancement of hard light technology. She realized her true origins upon hearing a very loud scream. Liberty's power powers are flight, thanks to her wings, of course, but the wings can also shield her from projectiles and electrical shocks. She's also able to turn invisible, but it isn't like the invisibility is coming from her. She has this light star thing that reflects light, and that renders her invisible to the human eye, as well as cameras and infrared lasers. Liberty's character was teased last year, but 2024 has been this girl's time to shine. Thank you so much to the person that was like, you know what we need? Space Spider-Man. Because we did need Space Spider-Man. I like to have fun, so why not? Persephone Parker is Star Spider. She is also the coolest, and I love her suit. She is from Earth 1978 and debuted in the Edge of Spider-Verse 3 in April. She lives in the space station, Bronx, because that's where her family is from. She's on the station because she's working as an apprentice to Professor Osborn, and they study quantum engineering. Persephone is quite sneaky. She is secretly dating Osborn's daughter and also secretly a space superhero. She utilizes the spiders on the ship, but they're not actual spiders, they're nanobots that use Shi'ar tech. They are what form Persephone's cool outfit. SPIDER stands for Sanitation, Planning, Integrated Defense and Engineering Robots. Star Spider's biggest fight so far has been against Octavius and the Kree army that were trying to invade the station. Deathlock is a newer Avenger, and I think he's pretty cool. Deathlock is Miles Morales from Earth 807128. Originally part of the Champions, he ended up facing Annihilus. In that fight, Miles ended up passing on, but then he didn't. He ended up turning into Deathlock instead. From what I can gather from the comic, it's because Miles stole the cosmic control rod from Annihilus and broke it. It caused him to become more cyborg than man. Miles in this universe is very similar to his 616 counterpart. He's fearless and funny and fights like his life depends on it, because it always does. Deathlock is part of the Savage Avengers. Even though they are from separate Earths, there's a lot of timeline messes happening, and that's how they came together. Deathlock debuted in May of 2022, so again, a bit older than some of the other heroes on this list, but no less cool. Ransom, another member of the Outliers, is next. Again, super new, not much is known about his powers, but we do know for sure that he has no heart. And that is me being completely literal. Ransom doesn't have a heart in his chest. Instead, he has a black hole or something like that. Now, this is not fully confirmed yet, but it looks like Ransom is one of those mutants that absorbs energy, and that makes him stronger. I got this vibe because when Wolverine was getting in his face, he said, "Don't touch me," seriously, kind of like a warning. Then when he was sharing his heartbreaking backstory about the time he was kidnapped and his rich parents refused to pay the ransom, the criminals threw him out a window and used their weapons 14 times, which in Ransom's words only made him strong. So it seems like any force used against this guy will only make him a tougher opponent. Moving into vampire territory, we have Pia. Pia is a vampire, as you might have guessed, but she is special and different than other vampires because she isn't hurt by sunlight. This is because she merged with a rabbit familiar named Tito. Pia has been a hero long before she gained her vampire abilities. She actually met her rabbit because she was being chased by a vampire. She saved Tito, but then another vampire ended up biting her. The two found each other again, and presumably as a thank you, Tito merged with Pia, giving her the chance to still exist as she did before. Pia is completely fearless. I mean, as a regular human girl, she took on a vampire with no second thoughts, and then did it again multiple times. But she's also really emotionally mature for her age after everything she has gone through. Her strange academy story centered around the vampire pandemic and capturing the Darkhold boy. The Darkhold was being really cruel out of a place of fear, and when given the chance to attack him, Pia instead heard him out and even saved him from Agatha Harkness by giving him some added protection by giving up Tito. And then she kicked Agatha in the face, so Pia slays. And finally, Deathdream. He is another member of the Outliers, and he is really creepy. He exists between life and death. He can choose which of those states he wants to be in at will. His mutant abilities manifested at birth. He was born still, was revived, and that situation happened 4 times the day of his birth, and by the 4th time his body just started doing it himself. Deathdream, when he chooses to be deceased, has necromancy powers and can summon souls. The souls can possess him, giving him powers like flight, or becoming a black hole. Literally, one of his combat strategies, it's so creepy, he just turns into this black void with a head in the middle and beady red eyes, No thank you. It's clear that Deathdream is incredibly powerful, he's just really young. He doesn't really have a handle on his power yet, so when he gets possessed, he pretty much loses all control of his body, which nearly ended Nightcrawler in what was supposed to be a training exercise. Overall, he just seems like a really sad kid with way more power than he might know what to do with, which means his arc has a lot of potential, and I'm excited to see how his story continues.
Number 10, Tosin Oduye. Tosin is such a cool character. Okay, so as a kid, Tosin Oduye saw the way that Wakanda became a socially isolated nation who believed themselves superior and seemed to always attract war. The Marube, the tribe Tosin belongs to, began to separate a bit from the main Wakandan people. They hated the way Wakanda used vibranium for tech, so they instead found a way to refine the vibranium and flow with it. They gave themselves vibranium tattoos, and some in their tribe, who trained hard enough, could have the vibranium flow with them, granting them some pretty cool powers. It's like they harness the energy of vibranium and can use it to move extremely fast, or unleash vibranium energy blasts, or even seemingly grant himself a vibranium armor. Last thing I want to say is that the covers for the issues of this volume of Black Panther are just so cool. Definitely check it out.
Number 9. Aleph Chernikov. Aleph Chernikov is a young mutant hero who appears in the Wolverine Patch flashback series by Larry Hama. This was a miniseries that came out earlier in 2022 and covered an untold tale from Patch's adventures in Madripoor back in the good old days. Here, Patch works to help 3 Russian mutants who have escaped their government, but have been tracked to Madripoor. Madripoor is military, royal armed guards, as well as S.H.I.E.L.D. and Russia themselves appear to be after the mutants, but Patch, Archie, and Tiger intervene in hopes of helping the 3. In the end they do, and among them is Aleph, the child of the other 2 mutants, David and Reza. Aleph appears to be the main focus of everyone's efforts when it comes to hunting them down. They possess powerful healing abilities, psionic abilities, and possibly even the power to manipulate reality. But they're also a child, so of course everyone's like, we gotta protect this baby.
Number 8, Bitewing. There's nothing that wins me over more than a puppy. But then DC goes and gives a puppy a 3-legged gray blue-eyed pitbull puppy and gives it to Nightwing, probably one of the best members of the Bat family. And then they go and give it the nickname of Bitewing. I literally teared up just typing this part because of the overload of adorable that I got while looking at this. Haley the dog was being chased and mistreated by some teenagers when Dick Grayson stepped in, rescued, and adopted her. Now, the first sidekick turned full-on hero in DC Comics has his very own super pet, especially after she was given a costume and the ability to speak from a 5th-dimensional imp. Now, she fights alongside Nightwing as Bitewing, and it's cute. It's very cute.
Number 7. Escapade. I love Escapade, and I also love her BFF Morgan Red. While initially introduced as a criminal in the Marvel Voices Pride issue of this year, I think it's safe to say that Escapade and her friend Morgan and his genetically engineered flying turtle pal, Hibbert, will soon become a team of mutant heroes instead of anti-heroes. I mean, even if they are criminals who steal stuff, they really only try to steal stuff from the worst people, which makes them still pretty altruistic. Escapade is a trans mutant named Sheila Sexton, whose powers involve swapping places with whoever she decides to use her mutant powers on. This can be someone as low level as a random passerby, or someone as high level as another superpowered being who is about to defeat her, or even the President of the United States. So much potential for this power.
Number 6, Bolt. Since the live-action Black Adam movie was announced, DC decided that they would also put out a Black Adam solo series for the first time. And in the first issue, it puts Black Adam on the ropes of mortality. In response to this, Black Adam finds his descendant, Malik Adam White, a medical student living in the Bronx. Basically, Black Adam just tells this guy he is going to succeed Black Adam and inherit his power, and then he forces him by having one of his people pop a cap in Malik, and the only way to save himself is to take Black Adam's ring and say Shazam. While Black Adam calls Malik White Adam, Malik gives a good little lecture about the inherent racism there. So he prefers to go by Thunderbolt or just straight up Bolt. From what I've read, I really like his character, and he is supposed to represent a sort of form of redemption for the character of Black Adam because, as they say in the comic, there is no true redemption for Black Adam. Not at this point, at least.
Number 5. Amass. Amass is a really cool new mutant. They made their first appearance in Steve Orlando's Marauder series in issue number 4. Amass is a mutant of Threshold, the oldest mutant civilization to have ever existed. They, along with 2 other mutants, had their minds stored within a codex, hoping that they would arrive in the future after being restored and would be able to seek help for their people who were on the brink of extinction when they last left them in the past. Amass's mutant powers allowed them to physically combine mutants and their powers together, joining binding together to create one basically big ball of mutants, which kinda looks like one big being. Hence their mutant name of Amass. This appears to both psychologically and physically combine whichever mutants they choose with themselves, with their new combined form also possessing all the powers of said mutants, which I think is pretty nuts.
Number 4. Grey Wolf. Of the characters I'm talking about on this list, my favorites are absolutely a three-way tie between Tosin, Bitewing, and this guy, Grey Wolf. Okay, so Lex Luthor was running a crime-fighting experiment around the world trying to create a group of his own similar to Batman Incorporated, with the ultimate goal of creating Abyss, his own Batman. But then he abandoned all these projects that then went wild doing their own thing. So Batman Incorporated's international team, being led by Ghostmaker, go on a mission to bring them down in Batman 2022 Annual Volume 3 Number 1 from July. Their first mission is to Kazbek, Chechnya, to take on Grey Wolf. Grey Wolf was unleashed on the city to help its citizens who had been exposed to Lazarus resin that had made them all extremely violent. With Ghostmaker, he was able to cure the residents and join Batman Inc. as a good guy, but he displayed enough skill to best Dark Ranger, El Gaucho, and Batman of Japan in a 3-on-1 fight, and he beat Wingman 1-on-1. Also, he's like 7 feet tall minimum. Super cool.
Number 3. Black Mist. Black Mist is a completely new character who is not yet a member of Batman Incorporated, but who might end up becoming one in the future. She was actually one of my favorite characters to appear in Batman Inc. issue number 1 from 2022. Not only does she look like a badass, but she also seems to be wary of joining up with Batman Inc. Black Mist appears as a sort of consulting detective in issue number 1 of the 3rd volume of this series. We don't know much about her yet, but she seems to be working with Batman Incorporated to help them solve the mystery behind just who is killing all the teachers of Batman and Ghostmaker, and why and how this perpetrator is doing that. One thing we do know about Black Mist straight out of the gate is that she seems to have history with the Knight. The two recognize each other and are presented as friendly to one another.
Number 2. Egro the Unbreakable. Okay, so this one definitely took me by a bit of a surprise. Coming out of the 2022 volume of Thunderbolts, specifically issue number 2, we are introduced to Egro. Egro is a super interesting little troll-looking monster who lives peacefully on Monster Isle. But you see, Egro heard of the monster exhibit at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, so naturally he expected to go and see his own statue. He just had to make sure that it captured his true beauty. But what the heck? They didn't have a statue for Egro the Unbreakable? An insult like that could not fly, so he obviously had to destroy the other statues for the other monsters, which brought the Thunderbolts to fight him. Instead, after Egro punched Power Man through the roof with his big lava hands and incapacitated Persuasion with his telepathic abilities, which helped him learn English, he surrendered to America Chavez and explained the situation. Then, he was invited to join the team. Yay! Happy ending for the little steroid Yoda.
Number 1. Nightmite. Just like Superman has Mr. Mxyzptlk and Batman has Batmite, Dick Grayson, the superhero known as Nightwing, now has his own imp superfan from the 5th dimension, Dixel, though Dixel prefers to be known as Nightmite. While it might seem strange to put an imp from the 5th dimension on a superhero list given, some of their track records, Nightmite is genuinely well-meaning and helpful, unlike most other imps who are somewhat mischievous or just downright troublesome. Being an imp from the 5th dimension also means that Dixel can be super powerful, as he has magical, reality-bending, and warping powers. Nightmite made his first appearance very recently in the comics, as of the time of this recording, in issue number 98 of Nightwing, which was released in November of 2022. Number 10. Nightbuster. Nightbuster is new to superheroing, but is super cute, and of those that are on our list is one that I know super well, considering I have been continuing to collect Nightwing all this year. It was my only comic of the big two that I allowed myself to keep collecting. She is Olivia Desmond and was the daughter of Roland Desmond, aka Blockbuster, and get this, Jezebel Jet. Remember Jezebel Jet? Yeah. She is the daughter of those two villains, and yet she will probably grow up to become a hero. Her foster father is Nightwing, who also rescued her from having her soul claimed by Neron. Neron had basically acquired a contract for Olivia's soul, which Roland had promised Neron in exchange for his own upon his death, because he didn't want his soul to be claimed, so he was like, how about I give you my daughters instead? It was all super creepy. When Blockbuster was killed, Neron came a-knockin', and fortunately, Nightwing, with some help from the Titans and Oracle, was able to keep Olivia safe. She would be revealed to have inherited her father's super strength and agreed to train and live with the Amazons on Themyscira, taking up the mantle of Nightbuster. Olivia made her first appearance in Nightwing issue number 98, the 4th volume of the Nightwing title, and she was created by Tom Taylor and Daniel DiNicuolo. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, and if you love when we talk about superheroes, know that we have a whole gigantic superhero playlist for you to check out. Number 9, Rec Rap. Oh my goodness, I love Rec Rap. While I honestly wasn't a big fan of the Dark Web Spider-Man based event overall, Rec Rap was a part of that event and was a character that we got from it that honestly, I loved. Rec Rap is a demon who was inspired by Spider-Man's Peter Parker to become a hero himself. He initially was known by the name of Parker Man before he adopted the mantle Rec Rap, which of course is just Parker backwards, Rec Rap. His powers are similar to Spider-Man's, combined with that of a symbiote, and instead of web slinging, he prefers to call what he does with his organic webs web wanging. I really hope we see more of him in the comics. Rec Rap made his first appearance in Amazing Spider-Man issue number 17 of the current volume, which we know officially as volume number 6 of ASM. Rec Rap was created by Zeb Wells and Ed McGuinness. Number 8, No One. Probably one of the most iconic superheroes to make their debut appearance in 2023 for me was the vigilante we've come to know as No One. Very mysterious. They are not exactly your typical hero, but I think that's what makes them so interesting. No One is from the comic of the same name and made their first appearance in said comic in issue 1 back in March. The character was created by Kyle Higgins, Brian Buccellato, and Geraldo Borges. They don't necessarily seem to have any superpowers per se, but are an extremely skilled fighter and rely on tech, gadgets, and their skills to accomplish their goals. Their focus is on calling out those who are corrupt and holding them accountable. As the saying goes, no one is above the law, but of course they are no one. The whole series centers around the mystery of who's under the mask and all of the events that happen around them, and that's also part of what makes the story of No One so interesting. That and the fact that it's a multimedia story told through the comic and interchanging episodes of a podcast, where various characters are actually voiced, so you can actually also hear what they sound like. There's also a website that you can go to, No One's website, where if you know the right code, you can learn more about their secrets as well. So the immersiveness and interactivity of this story are also a huge part of what I love about it. The story centered around No One, which is set in Pittsburgh. Number 7, Rasputin 4. If you are a House of X / Powers of 10 fan, you might be wondering how we can consider Rasputin 4 as a new hero. Well, that's because this version of her is technically an alternate in comparison to the first version that we saw of her in that beginning to the Krakoan era. This version of the character comes from an alternate reality created by Sins of Sinister. A version of Mr. Sinister created Rasputin 4 as a chimera hybrid mutant from the samples of 5 genetic powerhouses, also like in the beginning of the Krakoan era. However, after doing so, he realized he had made himself obsolete and began to feel regret for what he'd done to get him to where he was. He actually freed Rasputin from her conditioning, confessed his sins to her, and begged for her help in getting back a device that would basically return the world to how it was during the Paradise Krakoan era, which he of course had destroyed. They did not succeed in their mission, but Rasputin would eventually have her mind sent back to the time of Krakoa, allowing her to capture Sinister and have him punished for his crimes by the Quiet Council. Rasputin made her first appearance in Immoral X-Men issue number 2 and was created by Kieran Gillen and Lucas Wernick. She is a combination of Colossus, Quentin Quire, Unis the Untouchable, Talon aka Laura Kinney, and Shadowcat aka Catherine Pryde. Spider-Boy. Love him or hate him, Spider-Boy is here. Although it seems a little weird in regards to the timing of when he arrived, considering that he came in after Marvel had decided to get rid of Ben Reilly because, well, too many Spider-Men / Spider-themed heroes. Too many. And then enter Spider-Boy. Interesting. Spider-Boy is Bailey Briggs. He made his first appearance in Spider-Man issue number 7, the current run, which is considered to be the 4th overall volume of purely just Spider-Man, the Spider-Man title. Not to be confused with Amazing Spider-Man, which is also about Spider-Man, but it's just a different title. I know it's confusing, but just go back to the 90s, you'll be even more confused. Got Web of Spider-Man, you got all these comics. His DNA was spliced with the spider by Madame Monstrosity, which gave him spider powers and turned him into a human-spider hybrid. He was created by Dan Slott and Humberto Ramos. Number 5, Deadeye. Deadeye is the nephew of Amanda Waller. He's not exactly straight up a hero, but he also isn't exactly a bad guy either. It's kind of complicated. And he's pretty cool looking and definitely new as of this year, superhero, so I'm gonna include him here on this list. He made his first appearance in Lazarus Planet, Next Evolution, issue number 1. Oh boy, Lazarus Planet was a weird time, but hey, at least we got some cool characters like Deadeye out of it. Deadeye's name is Archie Waller, and he's only made a couple of appearances, so we don't really know too much about him just yet. His power set is based in the realm of psionics, having psychic and telepathic powers, but he also has demonstrated super strength as well. He can travel to the astral plane, travel to different dimensions, and also has a certain level of cosmic awareness. He was created by Chuck Brown and Alita Martinez. Number 4. Misery. Misery is the symbiote who ended up being bonded to Liz Allen. A copy of the symbiote also existed and was bonded to a chimpanzee named Grace. Initially, Grace the chimpanzee, once stabilized, sought to get revenge on Liz, but Liz was in essence saved by her newfound abilities through being bonded to Misery. Misery is a pretty powerful symbiote due to them being a combination of both the anti-venom symbiote and Carnage, which both also oppose each other. Thanks to them constantly battling and attempting to destroy one another and healing, Misery has an insane healing factor. Misery made their first appearance in Cult of Carnage Misery issue number 1 and was created by Sabir Perzada and Francesco Motorino. Number 3. Trinity. We love ourselves a heroic alternate version of a superhero's child. And if you are one of the folks who really love potential superhero kids from alternate futures, then you're gonna love this new hero, Trinity. Trinity is Elizabeth Lizzie Marston Prince. She is the daughter of Wonder Woman and an unknown man in a potential future. In her reality, she is also the future leader of the Justice League. She grew up alongside fellow super kids Damian Wayne and John Kent, who she looked up to as they were kind of like her older brothers. Her powers are similar to her mother's, and she also possesses the 3 lassos of fate. Lizzie was created by Tom King and Daniel Semper and made her first appearance in the legacy numbered issue number 800 of Wonder Woman. Number 2. 97. 97, or Aiko Maki, is one of the new immortal and mysterious beings we've come to know through Jonathan Hickman's God series. She is part of an epic war that has gone on for, well, seemingly forever, between sort of the god of science and the god of magic. 97 serves the god of science, known as the natural order of things, as one of their main agents, being the last of the prime number centivars in their service. They have 100 centivars total, and she is the last prime because she's, number 97. She even gave up her relationship with the love of her life, Wynn, her once husband, who was secretly the avatar of the rival god of magic, which is known as the powers that be. 97 made her first appearance in Uncanny Avengers issue number 1, the 4th volume in the Uncanny Avengers title. She was created by Jonathan Hickman and Valerio Schitti. Number 1. Kyle the Catboy. Kyle the Catboy is an interesting one. He's more of a neutral figure, but he does end up working with heroes at one point, so I'd still say he's more hero than villain, so I'm gonna count him. And honestly, most of the bad stuff that he's done in his life hasn't really been focused on hurting people or anything like that, but more on surviving. He was a criminal who spliced his DNA with a cat, becoming a splicer. He hails from the Future's End reality and ends up teaming up with Batman there, who in this reality of course is Terry McGinnis. His name is a variation on Selena Kyle, with it being Kyle Salinas. Kyle was also at one point taken in by John Constantine and taught magic by his mentor, but while he thought Constantine actually cared for him, he later learned that Constantine had actually unloaded all his curses on him so he could die peacefully and without burden. Ouch. Catboy first appeared in Batman Neo-Gothic issue number 1 and was created by Colin Kelly, Jackson Lansing, and Max Dunbar.
At number 10 is Amulet, or Fadi Fadlala. He's a great new addition of the Marvel Universe and a very, very sweet, innocent guy with a pretty good power set too, at least so far. His main power is his Nazar Shield, which he can conjure up on command. But one of the things that makes this guy unique is that his powers are fueled by love and care. So for instance, when he shields Mrs. Marvel, he draws power from the concern of her friends to give her complete protection from harm. And these shields can also be manipulated to be used as flying platforms for him to fly around with. Originally from Michigan, Fadi moves to New Jersey to live with his grandmother and cousins who own a juice bar. I like this character and the others on this list because it seems like the writers are really doing their best to tell stories that people relate to in 2022. Having a superhero with an immigrant backstory starting in ancient Baghdad and taking us to a multicultural western city is just a really cool way of acknowledging modern reality for a lot of people. It's going to be really cool to see where Fadi's story goes in the future, but for now, in his youth, he's already got some good accolades and a pretty nifty power set. At number 9, we have the Spirit of Corruption. Now, this isn't a brand new hero, but it's a new identity that Daniel Ketch has taken on in 2021. In Ghost Rider Volume 9, Issue 4, Daniel and his brother Johnny Blaze have a fight as Daniel is trying to convince his brother that his new position as King of Hell is corrupting his soul. But Blaze tries to kill him in retaliation, and Ketch is sent to Hell, where he's transformed into the Spirit of Corruption. This is where this entry on the list gets a bit dicey, because this newfound power is pretty dark and doesn't scream heroism. But considering Daniel Ketch is a good guy at heart, I think he belongs here. And he holds on to some of his humanity even while transformed into the Spirit of Corruption, which suggests that he could still make sound decisions based on his good nature. Regardless, the powers he's given are extremely powerful, with superhuman strength, durability, and the use of the Blight Blade. This weapon is really cool because whoever gets stabbed with it will turn to sludge by the corruption of their past evil deeds. But if someone hasn't done anything corrupt, they recover from the blow. So he's good, right? Right? Okay, at number 8, we have Prince of Power, or Other One. At first glance, he may seem like a total conceited a-hole, but his backstory is actually really interesting in how he gets to this point. Basically, he is one of 2 sons of Regalia, Queen of Noblor, but when Other One is born, his unattractive appearance and low intelligence, not my words, that's actually how the wiki describes him, leaves him in the shadows of his extremely powerful and successful brother, Magistar. And this leaves him with his name, Other One. So one day as he's sorting paper clips, which he becomes a master at, he manifests the power and attractive appearance of his brother, and the Power Stone appears in his jelly bean bowl. He eats it by accident and basically turns into Prince of Power, with a power set that gives him superhuman strength, durability, and speed. But as a cruel trade-off, his intelligence is lowered even further. His powers are kind of bizarre too, because whoever he attacks is infused with the power of the Power Stone he's ingested, so basically he just makes his enemies more powerful. Hey, this isn't a list about the most powerful new superheroes, just the newest ones. Alright, at number 7, we've got Shaylee Moonpetal. Like a few others coming up on this list, Shaylee gets her start in Strange Academy, a community of young sorcerers and mages started by the Sorcerer Supreme, Doctor Strange. This is a great thing to see starting in March 2020 because it seems to be introducing a whole new generation of superheroes like Shaylee. Once again, she's still very young and her powers are yet to really flourish, but she is basically a hybrid between a human and a fairy. She can fly using her fairy wings and has the capacity to cast spells. She's also already able to teleport herself and 9 other people at one point, although this power still doesn't come easily to her without some support from her friend Desi. Like some of the other students at the academy, Shaylee's upbringing wasn't so easy, having been barred from visiting her human father and having to grow up without his influence. But only time will tell whether this experience will hinder or further motivate Shaylee to become a powerful hero in the future. At number 6, we've got Emily Bright. Another member of the Strange Academy, Emily might have the best grasp of her powers out of anyone at the school. Since she was a young girl, she's been able to manipulate magic on command. And when she's invited by Doctor Strange to the academy, she only gets more confident with her powers. She's capable of healing, energy blasts, she's beginning to master the use of the Eye of Agamotto, which allows her to perceive the ties of multiple worlds all at once, and she can multiply living creatures, which could be a good start to a pretty powerful and unique power set. It'll be interesting to see where Emily's abilities go from here, as well as the relationships she'll make at Strange Academy. At number 5 is Zoe Laveau, first appearing in issue 1 of Strange Academy. So far, Zoe has shown abilities of necromancy and hypnosis, but still seems to have lots to learn. Her backstory is particularly tough, and another brilliant bit of writing by the creators of this storyline. With a long bloodline of magicians, Zoe falls victim to depression when she struggles with her own abilities with magic. So to make up for her perceived inadequacies as a sorcerer, she turns to Gaslamp, who sells wishes like drugs. And her powers are increased for a time, but they don't last long and wear off, leading her back to Gaslamp over and over and over again. I'm sure you can see the metaphor here. Basically, she becomes addicted and eventually loses her life to this habit, but is luckily resurrected when her ancestor Marie Laveau is called upon. Now she wears a necklace that keeps her appearing healthy and alive, but when it's removed, a decaying version of herself is revealed as a painful reminder of her past traumas. I think we can all see how these details can be translated to the real issues of modern young people, right? This character's story is just so full of metaphors that it's just brilliant and deserves a spot on this list. At number 4 is Sora, aka the Wolf. Daughter to Psylocke and Forge, Sora first appears in Captain Marvel Volume 10, Issue 22, when the world has become inhabitable, at least on the surface level, due to lethal levels of radiation. Sora lives with a group of other survivors of this nuclear event in an underground facility underneath New York City, and only when Captain Marvel restarts the sun are they able to start re-emerging to the surface of the Earth. Some of Sora's powers include the summoning of psionic weapons and telepathy. She's also known to be a genius, which comes in handy especially when needing to be resourceful in the position she finds herself in. It's really cool to see new characters like this being introduced in 2022. And not only are we seeing new characters, but new events and storylines that seem to be birthing whole droves of heroes at once. We're really excited to see where Sora's storyline goes, and we hope that this new son works properly. Okay, at number 3 is Bridget, Thor's daughter. Daughter of Thor. Okay, in the same event mentioned in the previous section, Bridget finds refuge underground alongside Sora and a few others. Bridget is unable to lift her father's hammer, so instead she works as a blacksmith for the other survivors. But when Ove, or Ovi, not sure how to pronounce it, the dark son of Namor, calls Captain Marvel to have talks in New Atlantis, Bridget accompanies her. And thank God for that, because when things naturally go wrong, because it's Namor's son, Bridget is forced to call upon Mjolnir, and succeeds this time, gaining the powers of her father Thor. Seeing as this is a newer character and storyline, there's not much more that has taken place for this character, but this is a pretty damn cool start. And after this major event that basically destroys the surface of the Earth, most of the old heroes and villains alike die. So in the early 2050s, it appears that there's a new wave of heroes ready to get their own issues in the future. Pretty exciting. At number 2, we have Werewolf by Night, or Jake Gomez, an indigenous hero with the ability to transform into a werewolf on command, without the need for moonlight. What makes this character cool and adds some modernity to his abilities is that he can only control his powers when he's listening to a playlist made by his cousin Molly. I think it's a really cool angle to have a young character's powers governed by their emotions and even their favorite music, because it speaks to the reality of a young person's experience in the modern day. I think it also speaks to today's culture in that many young people can sometimes fall victim to their emotions, giving the werewolf power a bit of a metaphorical quality to it. On top of this, the first real victim that Jake faces is the Life Pharmaceutical Organization, who have captured some of the tribal people from Hopi Reservation in the Painted Desert. So it's a pretty good commentary on modern issues if you ask me. First appearing in 2022's Werewolf by Night Volume 3, Issue number 1, Jake is just starting his journey as a new Marvel hero, and we're very excited to see where this character goes next. At number 1, we have Dr. Multiverse, or Maya Chimera from Earth 8, who made her debut as recently as January 2022, so only 3 months ago as of posting this video. She first appears in Justice League Incarnate number 1, and I'm putting her at number 1 because I feel like this hero has the biggest potential out of all of them on the list. Her powers and backstory are really cool, and her direct association to everything multiverse just screams mainstream hit to me. I mean, her powers are crazy. She can basically track down and transport herself to the immediate position of anyone she's ever interacted with, wherever they are in the multiverse. She can also withstand explosions at point blank range without being hurt, and can see variants and alternate versions of people from different realities, and recognize any person's identity and home universe just by glancing at them. She's basically a god with powers like that, and it's cool to be here for her big debut in 2022.
Want to see more videos like this one? Check out this video next. It's about the darkest superheroes you never knew about. We count down all the superheroes who have made a pact with the devil. Click the video now. What are you waiting for?